Hello, welcome to my channel, and thank you for being here. It's been about a week since I last made these recordings, and the reason for that is that I have major renovations happening to my home. And apart from the racket, I've been displaced. And so, hence this new setting, which is in my yard. Um, Today, I am talking about several images. I think there are four images that announce the arrival of the 1820 settlers and that period. So the first image, the caption reads, Port Elizabeth, Algoa Bay, as it was known back then, the pyramid erected by Sir Ruthven Donkin in memory of his deceased wife, Elizabeth. He renamed Algoa Bay Port Elizabeth in her honor. Donkin was acting governor when several groups of British colonists arrived and were settled by the British government and the Cape authorities in the Eastern Cape in 1820, so called the 1820 settlers. And first up, I must say that I had always thought that Port Elizabeth was in reference to Queen Elizabeth. Somehow, I don't know why. Not that I think it would have been any better had it been named after a queen that I personally don't have very high regard for. But I think it's somehow even more pity that she was named after, you know, the wife of a governor. And even more pity, in my opinion, is this poor um, facsimile of a pyramid um, with what we know now, the Masonic, um, dare I say, Masonic connotations that, you know, um, Britons and Europeans and Westerners in general have around their fascination with an African construct. So I'm needing some tea. So this is a modern day um, Port Elizabeth, and you can visit and see this strange um, um, site with the harbor and the ocean in the background. And the next image looks at the caption reads, a history museum housed in one of the early buildings of Castle Hill, Algoa, present day Port Elizabeth. And again, just an attempt to, that's apparently one of the earlier buildings. So an earlier architectural style, and to give you a kind of a sense of the topography with the glimpse of the bay, again, the ocean and the bay down in the bottom right hand corner of that image. And then we change perspective with the third image, which says present day center Port Elizabeth. And if you look into the sort of uh, horizon center left, just left of the center, you will see the pyramid and and uh, that part of this of what is quite a pretty little settler town with its few spires and the like, with the British Lion here in the center. Uh, an irony, because lions have been seen in Britain for for a long, long time. So, and our new South African flag flying um proudly um, uh, at, at the top. So, to come back to the settlers, I must say that the 1820 settlers, that it's not a subject I know a huge amount of. Maybe this is a good time again to remind you, the viewer, and myself that my full realization that I was a descendant of the 1820 settlers came to me when I was being interrogated in the kindest, most liberal use of the word by Chief Nkosi Makenini and his counselors as to why I wanted to work in his community and what was the nature of my project. Being interrogated, as I understood it afterwards, in the best traditions of the Nguni, Xhosa Nguni people of that uh, 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 geographical locations, long, well known ability to interrogate ideas, really. Um, and I found myself, in a sense, making a confession that I hadn't really wasn't fully cognizant of myself, that I was, in fact, the descendant of an 1820 settler family. And as I uttered those words, I had this feeling of mortification come over me, that I was doomed, that I was going to be kicked out of the region, that I wasn't going to get any support. And man, I was a bit perplexed as to why the chief himself was needing to, very unusual, needing to interrogate this arbitrary photographer wanting to visit sacred historical sites and investigate the role of the Xhosa in the Hundred-Year War period. And I'd chosen Chief Makenini because I'd, I'd researched and found that he was a living chief of the Ndlambe people, who had led a fort in 5 of the 9 frontier wars, wars of resistance of the Xhosa people. So he was quite a significant. He and his people were quite a significant people that I needed to engage with, and true to the greatness of the Xhosa people, uh, Nkosi Makanini turned to his counselors and said, "He's been sent by the ancestors. We will work with him." Upon me uttering that I was an 1820 settler descendant. Um, so yeah, so this scenario of these images of Algoa Bay and the settling, and introducing now the 4th image, which is the caption reads Albany Museum with detail depicting the arrival of the 1820 settlers, Grahamstown, um, and the humble ships that we arrived in, my ancestors arrived in, um, into that region. I should just say that also, well, a few things about the 1820 settlers, the little that I know, and my images will go on, and I'll talk about this in future sessions to explore a little bit more about the arrival of the 1820s, because it was a very significant geopolitical move on the part of the British to populate a militarily defeated and claimed territory with British subjects who were largely unwitting, in my opinion, about the role that they were playing as free mercenaries to, in a quid pro quo kind of exchange to defend British imperial project. And my ancestors left there they arrived in 1820 and they left in 1834, both the Duns and the Biggers, and moved to Port Natal, then now present day Durban, which was then not yet colonized. And they didn't come as they were fleeing the imperial project to come and live amongst the Zulu people, uh, who were still an independent people at that point in time. And the annexation came in 1844, 10 years after their arrival. And they deeply resented the British project. So I also find it curious that it's now 2023, And I was very aware that in 2020, um, we were commemorating 200 years of the settlers' arrival. And there was in South Africa, and there was very little, which was quite telling to see that there was very little commemoration of this momentous event, 200 years of settler um, presence in in South Africa. These were like 5,000 people that came in at that point in time. When I haven't studied what the population was of South Africa at that point in time, but that was a significant incursion, and it's the story will unfold when as I talk a bit more about the settlers in this region, and it's a huge, rich history that a lot has been written about it, well worth checking out as a phenomena, whether you're a 1820s settler or not, um, as to the dynamics that played out. Hopefully, I'll touch on that a little bit further in some of the future images. So I'll end this talk now and say thank you for watching. More information on myself and my work can be found on my website, a link to which, including my blog and email address, can be found in the video description below. If you like this talk, remember to click the like button and press subscribe. It helps the channel grow.